my dear friends and net aspirants, welcome back to our channel High Point, a place where you will get plenty of study materials related to NTA, UGC, NET, JRF, English language and literature. So today we are going to learn about yet another topic in cultural studies known as methods adopted in cultural studies, or methodologies or methods adopted in cultural studies. See, those who are wanted to do a PhD or research in cultural studies, or you want to do some papers, research papers on cultural studies, for them this video is going to be very much helpful. And also those who are also studying for cultural studies, or those who are having cultural studies as a paper in their syllabus also, this thing is going to be a great help for them. So basically we will learn about what are the things and methods that we'll use while we do cultural studies, while we study about cultural elements in cultural studies. So there are various kinds of things that we are studying in cultural studies, not only about a particular culture of a place, but in and around various things related to cultural studies, using various kinds of theories as well. So let's begin the video. Before that, let me remind you about a WhatsApp group that I have, in which I am sharing daily quiz question and answer, as well as some news updates related to NTA, UGC, NET. At the same time, some study material as well. In this number I have a group. So if you are interested, you can go to the description box and click the link and join, or you can directly message me in this given number, so that I will share the link to you, and you and your friends can join the WhatsApp group if you are interested. And if you are also there on Instagram, you can follow me there too, because I have provided, and I am daily basis I am providing study materials, free study materials there too, in the form of study cards, reels, short videos, carousels, story quizzes. And see, from Monday onwards we are starting every Monday marathon quiz there, in which we will be having 10 to 15 questions related to a particular topic that will be useful for you to understand about a particular work, or a particular author, a critic, or a thinker in detail. Okay, so don't miss this chance to have all these things. You can follow me there, or if not, if you are looking for some simplified, comprehensible, well arranged study materials, sufficient amount of study materials, then of course you are in the right place. You can visit my website. The link is there in the description box. The link address is there. The website name is www.highpoint.in. you can also enter it through Chrome, and you can see and can have the free trial and the demo material, and see whatever we have provided there, along with the 900 audio lectures. I have already provided 300 selected PDF materials which are downloadable, and you can download it in your devices, and you can use them in your entire career. And as well as we have provided plenty of questions from previous question papers, and in the form of previous question papers, as well as practice set of question papers that you can lively attempt in the website, and also know your marks after submitting your responses. So once you join for the courses, if you are interested, you can have two bonuses. What are they? You can have weekly tests in every Saturdays, as well as you will be provided with a personalized study guideline and schedules according to your own preferences and schedules of your own life. Okay, so if you are interested, message me in this number, or you can directly go to the website and you can join the course. Okay, yeah, let's begin. Let's have the introduction. This video is not going to be a lengthy video, because we can go on discussing about this topic, but I'll be using I don't want this video to be so lengthy, because that will only create boredom. I just want you to get the point. So I will explain sufficiently only. If you have any doubts further, you can obviously come and ask. Okay, so cultural studies adapts methods of analysis from various disciplines. Okay, so how cultural studies, in cultural studies they are analyzing various things, whether it is power, whether it is identity, whether it is power relations, whether it is production and consumption of cultural artifacts. So whatever they are analyzing, how they are analyzing it, they are actually using some methods of analyzing, and methods they have derived from various other disciplines. That's how cultural studies is an interdisciplinary study. Okay, so they will sometimes use mass media study theories, cultural anthropology theories, discourse analysis they will do, popular cultural studies they will, from there to they will adopt some methods, audience reception theories also they will use. So these are some of the theories that I have mentioned, some of the studies they are using in order to analyze things in cultural studies. Okay, and various political readings of culture is also there related to gender. So along with these studies and various disciplines that they are adopting as methods to analyze things in cultural studies also, culture is related to power. Okay, so to have various kind of political readings of culture, so somehow certain things have power and certain things got meaning, and how certain things are there in that way only. So in order to analyze all these things, you have to have a political reading of some elements of culture, actually most of the elements of the culture. So for that reason you will have also some kind of various topics that will adopt in culture studies to have such kind of political reading. What are they? Gender based readings you will do, race based, sexuality based interpretations about oppressive and hegemonic structures of this society. So you know how oppressive and hegemonic power structures are working on society to bring about certain meanings in about certain symbols and signs and objects in culture, in the culture of a society. So such, in order to have such ideas, in order to have such political readings, you will use these kind of topics, these kind of subjects in your cultural studies too. So these are the two ways that you can have some methods, and as culture is related to institutions of power, the cultural reading cannot be restricted to the realm of aesthetic reading. Okay, so you know previously this kind of reading, thematic reading or aesthetic reading of a work was so popular. See, considering a society, literature is an artifact. It's literary works, text, or whatever in the name of literature is produced in a society, it's an artifact. Okay, so that the artifact of literature, literary books and text, we cannot restrict the cultural reading of, cultural kind of reading that we are doing in a work. It cannot be restricted to the aesthetic reading. So we will discuss the culture discussed in there, about the author, how he produced these works, and how certain things we will learn about the author, we will learn about the characters, we will look at the themes, we will look at the characteristics of the characters, the features of the characters, the structures of the work. So in that way we cannot restrict the realm of aesthetic reading, or we cannot restrict the cultural reading only to the world of aesthetic reading. Okay, so cultural study of a text is much more beyond than that. There we will have interdisciplinary things to analyze it. There we will have political kind of reading about various things, about gender, about race, about sexuality, about interpretations, and about oppressive and hegemonic structures and questions related to such things. And it is also not possible to neglect the entire gigantic publicity machine works behind the popularity of work. So you can see that if you are going to buy a work of Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling, it's a fantasy work, you know that. And when you are buying this work of J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter, you are not just buying a text, but you are actually buying the entire enterprise that worked behind the publicity of this work. So how a particular work got attention and gigantic popularity, there is a publicity machine works behind the popularity of work. So when you consider a text more than the aesthetic reading, various other things are working behind that work, from the production of the work, from writing of that work by an author, after printing it. A gigantic publicity machine is also working behind the popularity of work. So in cultural studies we are also considering that element as far as a literary piece is concerned. So from this introduction you have to understand two things, that cultural studies ask what does a particular, from considering various discipline and all, we will always consider in cultural studies that about, and we will ask about that, what does a particular artifact, event or activity mean to a community, nation or a culture. So take an example of a text, a work. So how this and what this particular artifact mean to that community, and also how does a cultural artifact generate meaning in and for a community. So inside a community and for that community, how this cultural artifact, if it is a text, it is a work, or it is a song, or it is a particular symbol, just like our national flag or national flower, what kind of meaning is generated inside that culture as far as concerned to this artifact, or how for them this means, this particular artifact means to them, to whoever is there inside that culture. Okay, so these things are mainly asked in cultural studies. So, and there are also some examples of cultural studies whenever we are doing a cultural study about a certain cultural artifact or cultural element or sign or symbol inside a society or possessed by a society. So what do certain symbols represent in a society? So every other society there will be some symbols. Okay, so tricolor flag. So take the example of India. We have a tricolor flag, Gandhi Jayanti, cricket match. So we are not just watching cricket match as just a sport item. We have something related to, cricket is always related to our national pride. Okay, so how these symbols, this sports item, this holy day, Gandhi Jayanti, tricolor flag, how these things are relevant and represent what these symbols are representing in the society. So that is a question related to cultural studies. And how do the people of India react to them? How these people of India, how the Indian people, they are recognizing these symbols and how they are reacting, what is their perception about these national symbols, and what are these national symbols represent for the Indian people. So basically tricolor flag, Gandhi Jayanti, cricket, all these things represent Indian culture and nationalism. But these cultural symbols are also influenced by globalization. The thing is that whenever we consider about our own culture, we feel that our culture is unique and it is actually pure. We have to keep our culture so pure and all. But the thing is that, since people are mingling together, not only inside our country, but people are coming and going, and we have always a connection to the outer world, then there is a chance that our culture got mixed with the other culture that we have connection, and also our culture also will influence the other people's culture too. So in that way there will be a give and take between the cultures. So that is quite natural. That's how culture will progress inside a society. Otherwise it will struck and it can be regressive sometimes. So those who don't have any outer connections, there is also a chance that their culture will also regressive nature, and we can see some evidences from our contemporary society too. So these cultural symbols, it is not like they are supremely standing somewhere on the sky and it is quite uninfluenced by the entire society or entire outer world. But because of globalization, because of the communication happening between people all around the world, these cultural symbols, they'll get influenced by it, and sometimes it also can change as time passes, the meaning associated to it. Okay, so these questions are answered in two ways in cultural studies. So when we ask such questions about a cultural artifact or a cultural symbol or sign, this question can get answers in two ways in cultural studies. So we find answers for these questions that are asked in cultural studies two ways. First one, we will interpret. The second one, we will find the critique. Okay, so how we will do interpretation about these questions? The particular object is seen as the expression of a particular community or culture. So we will interpret that, we will find an interpretation that how this particular object or a sign or a symbol, take the example of tricolor flag that we have in India. So how this possess an expression of a particular community or culture, how it is representing the particular expression or particular sentiment of that community and culture. So we will have an interpretation like that. So we will find answer by giving some interpretation, by finding some interpretation about the meaning that possessed by this symbol or sign inside their community or culture. Okay, so that's the first way to answer these questions. So, and the second one is critique. The object are seen as visible political signs. So we will take these symbols and signs as political signs which carry which actually holds or which mask, which cover or reinforce certain ideological values. So this is more of a political kind of reading that we will do about the symbols and the patterns or signs or any kind of artifacts that we can come across in cultural studies or in a culture as such, and we will do a kind of critique about that particular sign or a kind of political critique about the sign, symbol or any representations, that we will understand what it carries or what is it masking or what is it reinforcing through that symbol or sign. What type of ideologic values are carried by these symbols or signs or masked by these symbols or signs or reinforced by these symbols or signs in a culture. So take the example of cultural studies. It carries a kind of meaning of nationalism, right? So we know that our tricolor flag, it has that kind of a very legendary kind of history towards the end of our dependency or when we were having our our freedom. We actually wanted to have a flag just like any other free country. We designed it, and now we are actually giving more value to them that is necessary. So we even consider tricolor flag representing are valued more than human beings. Okay, so in that way many clashes are going on inside our country, that if you are aware of. So it actually provides many ideological values for about nationalism and so on. So we are actually critiquing, or we can say that we find some political critique about the signs, and we will find the behind meaning or behind the ideological value it carries or masking or reinforcing, and it explores the political significance of the signs that they reinforce, mask or gloss. Whatever the political sign or the particular symbol or sign carries with it, we actually explores its significance politically about what they are reinforcing, masking or glossing with it. Okay, so in these two ways we can find answers to the questions that we asked about the symbols and signs presented in the society. Every other society will have this kind of symbols and signs and patterns and representations. Okay, and cultural studies thus studies the languages in and through which meanings are made in a particular culture. So this comes under somewhat language discourse and all. So everything we are conveyed through language. So in cultural studies they will study the language in and through these meanings are made in a particular culture. How these meanings about the symbol and about these signs are constructed in a language and how they are maintaining them through the language and culture, and questions how such meanings reflect the power struggle within the culture. So once we have discussed about the meaning or arrived at the particular meanings associated to the sign and symbol, after that we will discuss, and after that we will do question about how these meanings are associated with the power struggle within that culture. So in a culture there are different kind of social strata, right? There will be upper class people, elite people. How this meaning of the simple sign is representing that power struggle within the culture itself between different strata of people. And it also explores how certain meanings are privileged in that culture at the cost of others. That means, certain meanings, whatever meanings that simple or that particular item carries whatever ideological meaning or political meaning or value that it carries, but how that meanings are privileged. If that meanings are privileged, then how that meanings are privileged, and some other counter meanings are also oppressed, or this particular thing is getting a privileged position at the cost of some other ideologies, right? While some other people are, some other political ideologies are oppressed. Okay, so in that way every other thing in a society get a meaning at the cost of something else. Okay, cultural studies thus is the analysis of a culture's systems of meaning production and conception. This is conception. Okay, sorry for this mistake. So cultural studies thus is the analysis of a culture's systems of meaning production. So basically we are taking cultural artifacts and we try to understand by asking questions to that particular symbols, questions about that particular symbol or cultural artifact or patterns or signs that are present, and we understand, we try to interpret what kind of meanings are carried, or we try to critique politically about that. We will have a critical study about that particular particular symbol or sign that we are referring there, and we will study how the meaning is produced in that system about that sign or culture, and later how people are consuming, and consuming in the sense how they are imbibing that culture, how they are what is their perception about that culture, and how it is getting reinforced and privileged in that society. Okay, so that is about the method that we have applying in cultural studies while we are doing actual cultural studies about some artifact of about some element of culture. Okay, so now moving on, if you are trying to do a study in cultural studies or cultural analysis, you need to follow some elaborate procedures. Like you need to have at least two things: method and methodology. So method is a technique employed by the researcher to frame questions, collect and organize data. See, in which you should have a research question in order to first of all ask a research. So there should be have some research gap, there should be you need to feel a need of research in some fields. So in that way you have to frame some research questions first, then you need to know how to collect data in order to solve that question or find out answers for that question, and also once you have collected the data you have to organize the data and analyze the data and arrive at the particular conclusion. So the method refers to actual field work. That means through questionnaires you will be collecting data, or you will identify various sources like books or interviews you will do. So in that way you will identify various sources from which you can organize data, you can collect data and organize data. So that is the method. It's a technique of framing your research, the entire research, how you are going to various steps that you are going to take in a research, that you need to know whenever you are doing cultural studies or any other researches. Methodology is it's actually a kind of political position and the interpretative strategies used by the researcher. So methodology is a thing that once you know your collected data and you know the questions, and when you are trying to solve the question using the data that you have, what will you do? You will do some interpretations and analysis, your own interpretation. So this is a political position or the interpretative strategies that you are using while you are doing your interpretations and analysis, arriving at conclusions. Okay, so that is the methodology. So methodology is the critical approach used to interpret the data collected. So that you have from various sources, using various tools and all, you have collected the data, and what type of critical approach that you are using while analyzing and interpreting that data, that is methodology. For example, if you are studying interpretations of women in popular Hindi films, first of all you should have some method. First of all you should organize some questions, what all questions need to be asked, and you can actually have people's interview as part of data collection. You can prepare questionnaires that to give some kind of people, Then you can conduct interviews, mass interviews, you can conduct online interviews, you can send emails about the questions, and you can find various, you can have data from various books. So in that way you can collect data, and you can actually what you can do, you can organize data whatever you have collected from various sources. So that is method. And the methodology will include that you will identify a certain kind of ideology, you will have a political position to analyze this collected data. You will have a Marxist point of view, you can have a feminist point of view, you can have Marxist feminist point of view. Okay, so this is an ideology of the researcher that he or she will possess while analyzing and interpreting that data, and you will reflect about these questions, and you will it's not that after you collecting data you will think about methodology. No, you will first itself, in the beginning itself, you will think about, you must have must be aware of the methodology of yours before framing the questions even. Okay, so after collecting the data you will interpret the data based on the assumptions, your own assumptions, and your own it's not random assumptions but political position that you will have using some interpretative tools. Okay, so that's how we are doing like any other topic, we are doing research in cultural studies as well. So you can identify various symbols that is there in society, and you can analyze the meaning behind them, and you can have a political critical study about them, and you can derive at various meanings produced and consumed and marketed in and around that particular cultural artifact or cultural sign or symbol. So in that way cultural studies research should happen. So that's all about this video. I hope this was a useful thing. I know some assumptions and some things are not that easy to understand in cultural studies, but still I think this will be a useful video to you about the method and methodologies used in cultural studies. Don't skip the video, watch it full, or at least 2 to 3 times you watch it, or take down notes. If you have any doubts, please mention all of them in the query section or in the comment section, or you can directly WhatsApp me, call me in this number given here. Don't hesitate to do that. I'll be glad to share my knowledge and have discussions about cultural studies if you are directly messaging me. And if you're interested in joining the WhatsApp group, of course you can message me in here. I'll share the link and you can join, or you can go to the description box and click the link and join. And also you can join me, or you can follow me on Instagram in this ID lijimaria90, where I'm sharing lot of daily basis free studying materials in the form of study cards, reels, short videos, carousels, and story quizzes, and many more things. There you can have all of them, and you can say them, and you can use them further in your future. So don't wait for the next NTA UGC NET JRF notification, because only before 2 to 3 months before they'll notify the exam. Okay, and I don't think that 3 months are sufficient for you to cover the entire NTA syllabus, to make a note and revise them as many times as possible by using various things like PDF notes, your own notes, highlighter notes, and also previous and practice set of question papers. For these things you need time, and that will relax. If you start early, you can relax, you can get relaxed, and you can finish it by the time, and you will be well prepared before attempting the exam too. So for that, you join us in our website www.highpoint.in. go to it and have the free trial, and also the downloadable materials as a demo material we have given there, and also the audio lectures provided there, and see what we have providing there. And if you are interested, you can have the 15% off now while enrolling to the course. And along with that, once you have enrolled to either of the courses, you can have 2 bonuses. What are they? First one is a weekly test in every Saturdays, and the next one is a personalized study guideline which will be provided according to your schedules of the day, and also your preferences of subjects. Okay, so that's all about this video. I hope this was useful, and make your suggestions in the comment section. Let me meet you in the next video section, and don't forget to follow me and subscribe me in this YouTube channel too, and press the bell icon while you subscribe, because I don't want you to lose any chances of having these video series about currently going on in our website about cultural studies as well as literary theory and criticism. So let me conclude and meet you in the next video session. Until then, bye bye and take care.